Hi, you're with Andrew and Vanessa at Yogi Moksha for a 90-minute functional yin yoga sequence focusing entirely on the spine. The spine is a fairly critical piece of infrastructure, if you want to think of it in that way. If you think of the body as a structure, the spine would be right at the core with everything depending on it. But our lifestyles these days give it a fairly rough time, whether it's reading phones, working on screens on desks, or just poor posture and slouching. So today we want to try and counter that a bit by just working on the spine and working through the 6 degrees of movement or freedom that the spine has to ensure that we maintain the full range of motion in the spine. So we've got flexion, the rounding of the spine, extension, we've got lateral flexion to the left and to the right, and then we've got twists to the left and the right. So each of the postures we're going to work through will be working with one of those degrees of movement. So our target area, unusually for one of our practices, will be the same throughout the whole sequence. So we'll be talking about that as we move through. We will also be talking about some soft tissue target areas as well. But bear in mind that our focus today is predominantly on the spine. And so let's keep our focus and our attention on that. So coming now to a comfortable position, sitting cross-legged maybe. Maybe you want to sit on a block if you want to straighten the spine a little bit. Good way to start. Just getting comfortable. If you're comfortable closing the eyes, then just bringing those eyelids down. Or just fixing a point, soft gaze on the floor. Wherever you are, starting to turn the attention now, we want to draw the attention inward. So as we always do, breathing through our nose as we inhale and exhale. Just starting to bring our focus and our attention just to that breath, to that movement of air. As we inhale, we feel the air drawing up through the nostrils, over the tip of the nose, to the back of the throat, down into the lungs, filling the lungs. And as we exhale, feel that air moving up the throat, nose, tip of the nose. Just allowing ourselves to breathe in a natural rhythm and just watching, observing the breath in and out. Maybe feeling the belly expand as we inhale. And the belly fall as we exhale. So bringing our focus to the spine now. As you exhale, on your next exhale, bring your attention right to the tail of the spine. Just a couple of breaths here. So right down to the sacrum and a little bit further. And just start to sense an awareness there. On the next inhale, feel like you're drawing the breath, or if it's easier, just drawing a line up the spine, all the way up to the base of the skull. And as you exhale, going all the way back down from the base of the skull, down between the shoulder blades, down through the lumbar spine, sacrum, right back down to the tail of the spine. Drawing breath in, breathing up the spine, and exhale, moving back down the spine. Just using the breath here in conjunction with the energetic body to bring our awareness to the spine that we're going to work with by moving energy just slowly up and down the spine. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Now, with just a couple of breaths left, just take a snapshot of the spine. How does it feel right now before the practice? Just making a mental note of that for later, and we'll come back and compare that after the end of the practice in the Shavasana. So coming to standing now, we're going to start with some dangling, which will be a forward flexion, just allowing the body to fold forward. And we're all going to have different degrees of movement here. So if your back's particularly stiff, you might find that you're wanting to support yourself on your knees, on your shins. You might even find a couple of blocks handy. Just working with your range of motion. But ultimately what we want to be doing is just rounding the back, arching the back. We can put our hands on a mat. We can even hold the opposite elbows. And we're just starting off with a gentle forward flexion, opening up the back of the spine here. So separating all those little knobby bits on the back of the spine, the spinous processes, compressing the front of the spine. Just starting to give those discs in between the bone on the spine, just starting to give those a bit of a squeeze. Again, natural breathing. Inhaling and exhaling. You may feel something up the back of the legs in the hamstrings. If that's uncomfortable, just bend the knees slightly, because what we're really interested in is this forward flexion in the spine. You may find as you exhale, each time you exhale, maybe things open up a little bit. If that's the case, just allow the body to come forward a little bit more deep.
Just massaging those intervertebral discs. Quite beneficial in terms of exchanging the spinal fluid, fresh spinal fluid, flushing out some of the toxins. I suggest putting your hands down on the mat, even if you've got to bend the knees a little bit now, because we're going to come straight down from the dangling into a squat. So the dangling was a mild forward flexion, and if we're going to come down into the squat, look forward, we've got a little bit of a counter pose here because this is going to be a mild extension of the spine. So if it's hard balancing, you can have your hands in front or hands in front on the floor, that is, or together in front of you. Only here for a couple of minutes. Looking forward, you can start to feel moving from the flexion. We've now got a little bit of compression in the spine. As we extend it. Also going to feel this probably in the glutes. Just breathing. Couple more breaths here. And then again, I'm going to suggest putting the hands on the floor as we come up. Straight away again, we're going to come back up to dangling. So leaning forward. Maybe this time things have opened up a little bit, so we've got a little bit more movement. But again, just finding what's comfortable for you. So as we do in all of our postures, you want to be finding that edge, that first point of resistance. Once we've found that, we're going to work with the breath again to relax. So relax the muscles all the way up through the thoracolumbar, up the back, even down the back of the legs unless you're bending your knees. Just finding some stillness here. Maybe already beginning to feel some of the benefits opening up the spine. One of the challenges about desk-based work is that although we do tend to lean forward quite a lot, we really don't use the full range of motion in forward flexion, so we find that the top end of the range, if you like, of that movement is neglected, which ultimately can restrict our range of movement. So that's why it's important to work through regularly with the spine, your own comfortable full range of movement in each of the 6 degrees of freedom. Just a couple more breaths. Hands to the mat, coming straight back down into the squat again. For that mild extension, you'll be pleased to know this is the final squat. And just finding how you can best balance. Sometimes just with the arms out to the side like this, or as Vanessa's demonstrating, stabilising yourself with your hands on the mat there. Looking forward, be comfortable perhaps, looking upwards a little bit. Just breathing into the spine. Into the back. Opening up through the front of the body now. Thoracolumbar muscles, maybe a little bit of contraction just to get that extension. And just a couple of breaths left. And now just coming back to sitting on the mat. So for our next posture, we're going to go back to forward flexion, but just a little bit more intense than the previous one. So we're going to do that by taking our legs apart. So no rule about how far apart they have to be, however far you're comfortable. We're going to be in one form of this posture for quite some time, so you don't want to be uncomfortable. And from here, we're going to start with the left side. So we're going to turn towards the left-hand side. As Vanessa is demonstrating, sometimes you might find it more comfortable to just sit on something, maybe a rolled up blanket or mat, just to elevate the hips a little. And we're going to fold over the left leg. So again, just finding that edge. Using the breath. Target area here is the spine, obviously forward flexion, but in terms of the softer tissues, you're probably going to feel it up the right hand side here, so you might be feeling it in the obliques and in the thoracolumbar muscles, particularly on the right hand side. So let's just take the breath and through the energetic body, just relax the muscles in that right hand side of the body. As we do so, we might find the posture opens up a little bit. that's the case, we can adjust. Again, because we're working with the spine and forward flexion, we really want to be focusing on curving the spine. It's not about coming out straight as far as we can. So you might want to think about bringing the head towards the knee. Finding stillness here. Exploring the connective tissue stresses as well as the spine. The right hand side of the body, you've probably got something coming up the right hand groin, maybe hamstring, and then the right hand side of the back and the oblique.
Going back up to the centre. Now we're just going to take it back down to the same side, but work with a lateral flexion. So again, rather than coming forward like this, I'm just going to turn and open the body to the side a bit. Now it might be resting on the elbow here. You can even use a block if you need to. So now we've got a left lateral flexion in the spine. Still opening up the same soft tissues there, the obliques. On the right hand side of the thoracolumbar. And for options, you can remove the block, come down. As Vanessa is demonstrating, you can support yourself with the elbow. You can take the arm over if you want to. But again, just bearing in mind that our focus here is the spine, not necessarily the soft connective tissues, even though we can feel some stress in them. Working with that stillness, just allowing the posture to open up. Just gently coming back up to the centre. We do the same to the other side, so over the right leg. So just twisting a little bit to the right hand side. Folding forward, starting to get that curve in the spine for the forward flexion. Finding that edge. Pausing here. Relaxing any of the muscles that might be limiting our movement. So maybe the groin, the left hand side of the back, thoracolumbar. Breathing into those areas as we exhale,
allowing the stress to move to the connective tissues. Maybe finding that things open up a little bit and we can adjust. Allowing us perhaps to bring the head closer in towards the knee, or even supported on a block, just to create that nice curve in the spine. Working with that stillness, feeling the spine open up at the back. Exploring maybe the connective tissue stress in the left groin, left thoracolumbar back muscles, left oblique. As we did on the other side, maybe just straightening up and then coming back down for the lateral flexion on the right hand side. So twisting and opening the body, chest towards the front. Supporting ourselves, supporting the head. Arm by the left or up over the right side. Just feeling the extra stress in the connective tissues. But most importantly in this practice, feeling that left-hand side of the spine opening up. And just a few more breaths here. And gently coming back to the centre. So maybe just extending slightly. And all we're going to do now is simply fold forward, maintaining the legs in the same position, coming back to working with a forward flexion of the spine. So quite often in this posture, sometimes called dragonfly, it's about coming as close down to the mat as you can, and we tilt the hips and get the back flat, but because we're working with a forward flexion here, we're more interested in rounding the spine. So again,
maybe more about tucking the head in towards us. We could perhaps use a bolster or a block to lean over, or as Vanessa's demonstrating, support our head with a block, or we can just support ourselves on the elbows. Wherever you are, just again finding that edge. Pausing, relaxing the muscles, perhaps with the breath, breathing into the back. Maybe even breathing into the groin, but relaxing the muscles all the way down the back through the glutes and the inside of the legs. And just finding stillness. Physical stillness and mental stillness. Feeling the spine opening up at the back. Compression to the front. Just tucking the head in, just allowing the head to fall forward, just to maximise the rounding of the spine, particularly up the top here in the cervical spine. Most of our forward flexion is going to be in the cervical spine or in the lumbar. The thoracic spine in the middle, in between the shoulder blades, doesn't really move backwards and forwards to the same degree as the other parts of the spine. Thoracic's more about twisting to the sides. Just breathing into the posture and enjoying the stillness. Sometimes stillness, particularly in the mind, can allow emotions or thoughts to arise, and that's fine. All through this practice, if that happens, just let them come up, let them float off like clouds. And then come back to the spine. Come back to feeling the spine open and release. Your hands on the mat or the floor, just walking back. Bringing the knees back together. Just maybe a little counter pose with wipers. So as Vanessa's demonstrating, feet apart and just moving the knees to one side and then the other. Just as a little counter pose. If you prefer, yeah, you could just sit back on the elbows and just rebound for a moment. Or even lie flat down on your back for a rebound. And just start to explore any sensations that arise. There'll be some sensations in the lower body because there were connective tissues there that we've been working with, but try and bring the attention to the spine and awareness of perhaps any energetic movements there or any physical changes or sensations. As we do pause between each of these postures, just start to come straight back to the spine and see what's changed. From here, I'm just going to come to seating position. So we're sticking with forward flexions, and each time the degree of forward flexion intensifies a little bit. We're now just going to fold forward. We've got both legs in front. They don't have to be feet touching, it's just a comfortable distance for you. And we're simply going to fold forward. So again, we're going for this rounding of the spine, so forward flexion. As before, we can support our head if we need to do so, but remember we're aiming for the curving of the spine. Or if we prefer, we can just let the head fall forward. Just a couple of minutes in this particular variation. So finding your edge, pausing, relaxing the muscles all the way down the back of the body, in the back, glutes, down the back of the legs. And just finding some stillness. Allowing the head to fall forward, just to increase the curve in the spine. Now we've got options here. We can stay exactly as we are, just maintaining the forward fold. Or if you're finding that that's not really giving you enough flexion in the spine, a couple of options. We can come to lying on our back, bring the knees in towards the forehead, extend the feet out into what's sometimes called plough. So we can stay there. The arms can be behind or up above the head. Or if we prefer, which is again another degree of intensity, we can bend those knees and allow them to drop either side of the ears.
We're not forcing the knees down towards the mat again, we're just allowing the back to open up. Allow it to find its own level. And just finding stillness. Physical stillness. Exploring the connective tissue stress all the way up the back, the thoracolumbar. Maybe even the glutes. Certainly the back of the legs if you're still sat on the mat, folding forwards. A really deep flexion of the spine, particularly in plough, caterpillar, at the top of the spine, the cervical spine. Cervical spine is probably the most flexible part of the spine in terms of its range of movement, or the degrees of movement. Now just gently going back to your mat for either another wipers release or rebound, your choice. We've got just over a minute. Maybe combine and do a couple of wipers and then just lie back. Closing the eyes. Bring the attention straight back to the spine. Again, just thinking through the postures we've been through. More forward flexion. Opening up the back of the spine and just noting perhaps any physical changes that you've noticed. Or even more subtle energetic changes. Maybe it's easier now to visualize moving energy up and down the spine than it was at the start of the practice. Yeah, just a couple of breaths now. So we're going to move now into extensions of the spine, and we're going to start by coming to lying on our front, so supporting ourselves on our elbows. Almost in a sphinx. Toes straight out. And then we're going to bring the left leg up to the side, so I'm going to bend the left knee and bring that knee up to the side. Again, just explore a little with what works for you. There's no hard and fast rule. We're going to explore that. The knee can be up and down, the foot can be in or out. Remembering you want to be comfortable and the focus is the spine. We can have the head looking down towards the mat, or for a bit more intensity looking forward. But it's starting as always to find that edge. Our soft tissue target area would be the stomach, the rectus abdominis. So bringing our attention and breath there to relax that area, the muscle in that area. Breathing in, and as we exhale,
allowing the muscular stress to pass to the connective tissues. Maybe finding that the belly moves closer towards the mat. Maybe means we can just adjust our left leg a little. You might also want to bring a little bit more height. So you could rest the arms on a bolster. And just finding some stillness. So exploring the connective tissue stress up predominantly on the right hand side of the rectus abdominis. But bringing our attention to our main focus, which is the spine. So we've got some lovely compression down in the base of the spine, the sacrum lumbar area. Extension of the spine all the way up from that. And maybe explore the position of the head, whether you're looking up or forward. Maybe even leaning the head towards the left shoulder. Just seeing how that affects the compression in the spine. There's also an option, if you wish, for the right extended leg. You could bend that leg at the knee, look forward, and you're going to get some more extension or a greater degree of extension of the spine. Maybe try that for a while. And if that's too much, just straighten the leg again. Just a few more breaths here. So we feel the front of the spine open with the front of the body. Straighten out the left leg, coming straight away to the other side, so exactly the same to the other side. Maybe starting just in the Sphinx without the bolster, bringing the right knee up to the right hand side, position of the knee and the foot, up to you. Starting to find that edge. Soft tissue target area, the left hand side of the rectus abdominis, stomach muscles. So taking our breath there through the energetic body, breathing into that area, breathing into the stomach muscles, exhaling, relaxing them. Maybe finding that opens things up a little bit. maybe staying here, or if you prefer, coming up onto the bolster again. And just finding stillness as we feel the stomach perhaps moving towards the mat as things open up. Enjoying the stillness. Just noting the connective tissue stress. Left rectus abdominis, maybe a little bit of hip flexor. Before coming to the stress in the bones, particularly in the spine. Compression in the base of the spine, the lumbar area. And then compression all the way up the spine, the extended spine. Deciding what we're doing with our head, whether we're looking forward, down, or up. Maybe even dropping the head to the right shoulder. But as with all the variations we explore, just being fully aware of what those movements do in the target area. So how is the movement of the head or the knee actually affecting the spine? And when we're comfortable, just maintaining that stillness. We've got about a minute to go now, so if you wanted to bend that left leg, that's another option. Bending the leg, dropping the head back will maximise the extension of the spine. But if at any stage that's too much, just bring the leg back to the mat. And just enjoy the opening of the heart space. That's moving any props. We're going to work with lateral flexion this time. We're going to do that lying on our back, come towards the right hand side of the mat, and then we're going to walk the feet over towards the left hand corner, side by side for the moment. I'm going to take the arms above, and we're going to walk those to the left hand corner of the mat. So we've created this banana or smile shape, whichever you prefer. So starting to find that edge. We're going to feel that all the way down the right hand side of the body. So in soft tissue terms, we're going to feel that in the IT band, maybe in the glute, the obliques, up the arms. And just breathing in, relaxing that right hand side of the body. And perhaps as things open up a little bit, we could take that right foot and just cross it over the left foot. This is just going to intensify things a little bit down the right hand side of the body. Some people do say they prefer to do it the other way, so you could try crossing the feet the other way. But in general, for most people, it would be the right foot on top of the left. Again, here you can explore with the head position, but typically looking towards the left-hand side would optimise the level of stress. And just finding stillness. So exploring the soft tissue stress in the right-hand side, IT band, glute, obliques, right-hand side of the torso. Coming to the healthy stress on the bones. Maybe a little bit there in the hips, femur. But focusing on the spine. Got a good compression to the left-hand side of the spine, opening up the right-hand side. So working through this lateral flexion. Sometimes quite challenging because it's not a thing that we might do in everyday life. All the more important to work through the range of motion periodically. So again, working with the mental stillness, and just being aware that with the heart open, in particular, sometimes we might find an emotional or thought-based response. Just allowing that to happen. Just releasing that right foot. If you've crossed it, and coming to the other side. So we're going to shuffle to the left-hand side of the mat. We're going to walk those feet to the right-hand corner. Take the arms over to the right-hand corner, creating our nice banana shape. Just finding that edge. Yeah, so the soft tissue target area will be the outside right, outside left side of the body. IT band, oblique. So just pausing here. Breathing into that left-hand side of the body. As we exhale, feeling the stress release through the energetic body to the connective tissue. The same soft tissue release all the way up the back of the thoracolumbar on the left-hand side. And then as we relax and we feel things might have opened up a little bit, as we take that left foot on top of the right, trying as far as we can to keep the left hip or buttock on the mat. And just finding stillness. Physical stillness, healthy stress in the bones, compressing the right side of the spine, opening up the left-hand side. Stress all the way up the left-hand side of the thoracolumbar area. Just noting that it's not just range of motion that we're trying to work with in this practice. And that's obviously a significant part as we want to maintain a good range of motion. But also by applying healthy levels of compression to bones, including the spine, we're sending chemical and electrical signals to the body that these are areas in bone that we want strengthened. The body's constantly breaking down and rebuilding bone. So the more that we send the brain these signals, the more it knows that these are areas of bone that we want to be strengthened. If we don't do this, then that area might be broken down more than it's rebuilt. And we find that we get weakening of the bones in that area. So by regularly applying some healthy stress, we're helping to prevent or reduce issues like osteoporosis. As well as ensuring that the softer connective tissues around the spine are strengthened and lengthened to maintain the range of motion. Just a few more breaths here. So releasing that left foot. And maybe this time just bringing our knees, hugging our knees to the chest. So you can grab them either with the hands or elbows. And if you want with the hands, just circle around a little bit. So just freeing up, just neutralising that spine a little bit. Ready for the next posture. Breathing into the spine and exhaling. So we're going to continue lying on the mat. So lying flat. Just going to bend the right knee. And we're going to bring that over the left-hand side of the body. So we're going to bring it over to the left-hand side of the body, keeping the left leg straight. In terms of your arms, they can be just down by your side, or you can have the right arm up or leave the left hand resting on the knee. And again, we can work through, you should try out the position of the head. Our target here is the twist in the spine. So just pick the position of the head that optimises that twist for you today. Typically looking away from the bent knee on top is going to introduce more twist. So just finding the edge. Soft tissue target areas are going to be the right hand side of the body, so the glute, maybe the IT band, the oblique, depending where the arm is, maybe coming up the inside of the arm. So as we find our edge, we take our attention to those soft tissue areas. Breathe into them, and as we exhale, allow the muscular stress to pass to the connective tissues. This may allow us to adjust when we find that the right knee moves a little bit closer to the mat. And that's going to bring just a little bit more twist to the spine. So finding stillness here. Bringing the awareness to the spine. Just feeling the twist all the way up from the lumbar at the base, all the way up through the thoracic to the cervical. Not a great deal of twist in the lumbar, most of it's in the thoracic. Thoracic part of the spine is the part of the spine that's constructed in a way that allows twisting from side to side. But the cervical spine, also has a reasonable degree of twist. And again, you might want to explore just gently moving the head from side to side and seeing what the effect on the overall twist in the spine is. Maintaining the stillness in the mind. Allowing whatever arises to come up and just float away. Couple more breaths here. Just releasing that right leg. And coming to the other side, so maybe just lying on the back for a minute, wriggling the legs a couple of times. And then we're going to bend that left leg. And just bring the knee over to the right hand side of the body, right hand side of the mat. As we did on the other side, just finding an arm position that's comfortable. The left arm above the head or down the side of the body. Maybe leaving the right hand on the left knee. Not forcing it down, it's just the weight of the hand on the knee. Right leg extended. And starting to find that edge. Soft tissue areas we're going to feel some stress in. Left glute, oblique, maybe something on the inside of the arm, left IT band down the outside of the leg. So directing the breath through the energetic body. Inhaling into that left hand side of the body. As we exhale, feeling the muscular stress start to move to the connective tissue. Maybe a couple of times. The glutes are quite a large muscle group. And then we might find the posture opens up a little bit. Perhaps that left knee is coming a little bit closer towards the mat. And we're getting a little bit more twist in the spine. And deciding which way the head faces, what the effect on the spinal twist of that is. And typically looking away or the opposite direction to the bent knee will give you a little bit more twist in the spine. So finding that stillness, physical stillness. We've got the healthy stress on the bones all the way up the spine with the twist. Twist. Also strengthening and lengthening the soft tissues that wrap around the spine. Working with range of motion and working with the strength of the bone itself. We can't really change the shape of our spine, but we can certainly ensure that the bone is healthy and strong, and that the connective tissues that support it remain strong, but also long enough to allow a good range of motion. Couple more breaths here. And just gently releasing that top left leg. Maybe coming back in for a bit of a hug of the knees to the chest. Maybe I want to just circle them a little bit. One way, then the other. Again, just trying to neutralise the spine. Yeah, we're going to stay lying on our back, but we're going to need a couple of blocks for our next posture. And so here we'll be working on an extension of the spine again. So taking either one or two blocks, I want to lift the hips, placing the blocks underneath the sacrum, so no higher than that. Underneath the hips, the sacrum, certainly not in the lumbar area of the spine. And here we can either stay like this with our feet on the mat. We'll still be getting a reasonable degree of extension of the spine. Arms can be overhead, straight, holding opposite elbows, even out in a stop sign. They'll all produce a slightly different effect. Or if you're comfortable, you can just take the legs straight out, extend the legs, and this will increase the intensity of the spinal extension. So just finding that edge. Pausing here. We've got the spinal extension of the back, but in terms of the soft tissues, you feel that down the front of the body as you open up the front of the body. So you might find this here in the hip flexor, rectus abdominis, maybe the obliques, but certainly maybe even the quads, hip flexors, and the rectus abdominis. So taking our attention there, relaxing the muscles on the front of the body as we relax the muscles like the stomach, the rectus abdominis. We might find the posture opens up a little bit. And then if that happens, just allow it to occur. Just finding that stillness. Maybe exploring briefly the connective tissue stress up the front of the body. Quads, hip flexors, rectus abdominis, all the way up to the inside of the arms perhaps. You might even have a more energetic sense up the front of the body, all the way from the big toe up the inside of the legs, up the front of the body. Just feeling the compression in the base of the spine, the lumbar. Extension of the spine all the way up through the lumbar, thoracic, cervical spine. Opening up the front of the chest and the front of the spine. Perhaps just giving those intervertebral discs again another quick massage. Helping to exchange spinal fluid, getting fresh spinal fluid in there. Flushing out toxins. Toxins which can ultimately block up and restrict the movement of the connective tissue. Putting your feet back on the mat, just lifting the hips, moving those blocks out of the way, and just coming to a comfortable lying position, lying on the back for our final posture, the Shavasana. So lying on the back, arms and legs relaxed. If you're comfortable, bringing the eyes to a close. Otherwise, just maintaining a soft gaze at a point on the ceiling. And with the eyes closed, as we did at the start of the practice, let's bring our attention briefly back to the breath. Feeling the movement of the breath in and out of the body. Remembering, if we can, how this compares to the breath at the start of the practice. Maybe the breaths are a little bit longer, a little bit deeper, and just more relaxed. In and out. Breathing in and out. On the next inhale, take your attention to the base of the spine, tail of the spine, below the lumbar, below the sacrum. And just start to generate an awareness in that area. Maybe for you it's a physical awareness, or maybe it's more energetic. But so long as we bring our attention and our breath to that area, we'll be able to generate a sensation of awareness. Inhaling and exhaling. On the next inhale, draw that awareness all the way up the spine, lumbar, thoracic, cervical, right to the top of the spine, the base of the skull. And on the next inhale, all the way back down, cervical spine, thoracic, lumbar, down to the sacrum and the tail of the spine. And just do this a couple of times at your own pace, along with your breathing. Again, on the next exhale, let's just pause down at the base of the spine. And now if we can think back to how the spine felt at the beginning of the practice, let's just move slowly up, sacrum, lumbar, thoracic, cervical spine. Just noting how it feels now. And if we can remember, just comparing that to how it felt at the beginning of the practice. Moving back down, cervical spine, thoracic, lumbar, sacrum, and maybe moving back up, sacrum, lumbar, thoracic, cervical. Just making a mental note of any changes that you can recall in the sensations in the spine, how the spine feels. And then taking a couple of deeper breaths. Start to wriggle the fingers and toes. leaning gently to one side. And in your own time, moving up to a seated position. There's no rush. Just take your time. So that concludes our 90-minute spine focused practice. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope to see you again soon on the mat. Namaste. Namaste.